Here we are, Radar Podcast with Brady from Conjurer.
Hiya.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, I'm very well because I don't have to play a show or I don't have to really take part in anything other than just talking to people, which is lovely.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah. Now, we spoke to you at the last Radar Festival in Guildford, which was back in 2019, Catherine, am I right?
2022. There was one in 2019, so you're not incorrect, but there was one subsequently.
2022.
I think we played the 22 one because Noah wasn't in the band in 19 and he played that show.
Okay. Now, you've seen Radar at its origins.
Yeah.
And here we are in Victoria Warehouse. Tell me your feeling about arriving here and going, oh, this is Radar Festival?
Yeah, it was definitely, because we obviously missed it, not obviously, but I did miss it last year. I was just blown away, just like the whole vibe. It has that, like, even like the little bits of branding everywhere and like the furry wall and stuff. That's what I've been calling it.
No,
like,
you cannot.
Yeah.
It feels like its own event, and it kind of feels like, oh, like it has always been here, you know?
Yeah.
Like the setup's just really perfect for this kind of event. So I've been having a great time.
I would add, there is some of the 2022 radar here because this is from the Chandelier.
Is it? Now, that's a really good point, because you played in the last venue where there were chandeliers everywhere.
Yeah, that was weird.
They were taken down, so the manager of the venue cleaned extensively one of the...
I bet they were filthy.
Yeah, and gave that to me, so I wear this for radars here because then I've got a bit of old radar.
Oh, yeah.
That's great, because the chandelier was brought up yesterday with one
sure
of the bands. But yeah, there's a thread, I think, is what we're saying, right? And musically, let's talk musically, because I don't know, and I've been trying to work this out from day one with Conjurer. Where do you think you fit musically in a sort of genre or scene, or where do you think you are?
We had a big chat about this last night, actually, because we'd been up in Manchester for the week rehearsing and writing and kind of having a bit of a retreat together. And since day one, like, we've always found ourselves, or certainly we did find ourselves playing in like the doom, sludge, stoner scene a lot, and they were really welcoming to us. But then we would also go and play Bloodstock, and we played a Euroblast and Techfest and Radar, and kind of like we've always been able to kind of not quite fit in anywhere but be accepted everywhere. And in kind of discussing the direction for this next album that we're working on at the minute, that's a big thing that we're really passionate about not losing, in that there are 3 tracks that kind of are the through line that are, you know, pretty evidently Conjurer tracks, and everything else is kind of like expanding that palette and going, okay, we're going to push it in this direction, or, you know, take a left turn here. So in terms of specificity, it's something that we don't try and think about, or I guess actively try and avoid. So I'm getting multiple phone calls in my pocket, and it's concerning. It's our drummer. I'm going to continue to ignore that.
Yeah, no, you should always ignore the drummer.
Yeah, I know her. Go fuck yourself. No, so yeah, it's something that we've always been conscious of, and really grateful that we get to dip our toe into all these different scenes that the UK has. And it's something where there is that just, not even sadness, but just like FOMO of, you know, you get bands that are like so entrenched in a scene that it's like that like family between, you know, all these bands that work together, and we've never really felt like we've had that, or found that one place that is like, oh, this is absolutely where we belong. Maybe outside of Arctangent, but even then, with the metal band on the weird post-rock lineup, you know? So yeah, there is that, you know, there's push and pull with it. There are benefits and negatives, but I think the thing that we all find special about the band is the fact that isn't so easily pigeonholed, and that's something that we're really trying to keep hold of.
So am I to deduce from that, you don't really, when you're writing music, you don't really care about what people think of it at the end?
It's an active thing I said yesterday.
Okay, right.
I think less and less we're trying to think about what the audience want or what any expectations on the band, and we just have the expectation of ourselves to create something that we're passionate about, and that in 4 or 5 years' time we can go, I would play any of these songs again. And you know, if the band has that longevity in 10, 15 years' time,
Yeah.
I can look back on whatever record we're about to make and go, yeah, I think that's great. I think for what we did at that time, that is the best possible thing we could have made. I'm really proud of it, and we're going to do that, and then we're going to move on and we're going to try something different.
Yeah, because it's really interesting. The first sort of major shout out for you guys that I was aware of, we interviewed years and years and years ago, Raging Speedhorn. And those guys were like, Conjurer, Conjurer, Conjurer. And it was like, I know of Conjurer, but I haven't really, okay, I need to get in on this. But Raging Speedhorn is not necessarily a band I would expect to see at Radar Festival.
Yeah. I think that's, again, we have made friends with so many people from all these different bands that are, you know, of a wide variety, not even necessarily heavy music, but that kind of represents who we are as people. We have these quite diverse tastes, and whatever goes on in the van, it will be a wildly different, unless I'm driving, I listen to the same shit day in, day out, but like it will be a wildly different thing. It will be some obscure folk artist that Dan's obsessed with. It will be Fleet Foxes because no one wants to drive for 4 hours, listen to the same thing. It will be Bruno Mars because me and Connor want to have a sing-along. Like it, yeah, and then every now and then System of a Down. Yeah, it's like this real melting pot of different influences and genres, and I think we try and feed all of that back into what we do creatively. But it's a lot more arguing than much else, but we're trying to get better at that.
But then the last time I saw you was actually at Clipping, which was so much fun. Yeah, I loved it. But the crowd there was so they were absolutely engaged with everything you were doing, and it was a very confusing show. But yeah, great fun. And that was a completely, it's exactly what you're saying. That was a completely different crowd again.
That's the kind of stuff that I'm really passionate about doing, though, is like, I want to pop up in places that we have no right to be.
I was very confused when I saw that flyer, and then immediately, because I love Clipping, and which isn't so I don't love you as well, but it was a sort of, what? Why am I seeing both of them at the same time?
Right?
Yeah.
Well, I tweeted the promoter and I was like, go on, when he announced the show. And he messaged me and was like, are you serious? Because I think it'd be really cool. And I was like, obviously, yes. Like, Clipping are one of my favorite acts. I think they are. I think David is the best rapper in the world at the minute. I just think he's fucking incredible. And so when he was like, okay, we'll make you an offer. Like, it won't be much money. And I went to the band. I was like, look, can we do this for me? And they're all just like, obviously, yes, we're going to do this for you. It'll be great. And went way better than I expected. Like you say, like there were...
The crowd was so enthusiastic.
I felt like there was that crossover because I only heard about Clipping through my friends in the metal scene. Like that was how I got into it. So I'm like, there must be some kind of crossover there. And it was wild. Like we sold more merch at that show than we did at a small metal festival we played the week before. Like it was just one of those, like it worked out perfectly. I found out the TM spoke to the band and was like, hey, the promoter wants to put this metal band on. And they were like, we can't see it working, but like, whatever. And they watched it and they were into it. So.
That's great to know that you've got those options open to you. I know that you were sort of painting it as a like, we're nomads, we're sort of out there, but that also works to your advantage, right?
I wouldn't have it any other way. Like I have played in local, like I was in a metalcore band, I played in a pop punk band for a while, and it was the same venues, the same faces, the same local bands, week in, week out. And there's something great about that kind of like community coming together, and it was in Rugby in the Midlands, like a really small town where we're all essentially from. And you know, we were lucky to have that community growing up, and it gave us all opportunities to play and not tour, but you know, play a town 20 minutes away, you know, that kind of stuff. But the ability to just turn up anywhere and know I don't really have to worry about anything. I just trust the people I'm with that we can just turn up and smash it. And I don't even really care. It's so hard to say this without sounding like an asshole. I don't really care about the audience. Like, I want people to turn up, take whatever they're going to take from the set, enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, just like go do something you'd prefer to do. Like, that's fine. It's not for everyone, and that's cool. We make it for the four of us, and we're really happy to share this thing that we love and are really passionate about. And I just want people to engage with it however they feel is comfortable. So we don't really talk to the crowd. We don't really try and encourage any kind of moshing or whatever like that. Because if people want to do it, they will. And if they don't, like, cool. You know, like, I really like the idea that someone can just turn up and have whatever experience. Like, we've done our bit. We've turned up and played. Now you can do with that whatever you want. Like, it's the same with the music. I want to put it out there and just let people engage with it however feels good to them.
Now, I love that.
It's a big old butt there.
I left a pregnant pause. I do love that, and I love that bands do things for themselves and come what may with the audience and everything, because it's about the creativity, and without that you wouldn't have had whatever you've had, right? So, however, Radar Festival, what I love about the community that Catherine, you've got here, is there is a load of different people from a load of different backgrounds all coming together and thinking about the same sort of music. You've got the marketplace with all the guitars and all the opportunities to play video games or to rehearse together and meet new creative types. I want to know what you might say to a band who were in your position maybe 10, 15 years ago, who are thinking, first and foremost, how can I make something of this? But secondly, how can I not compromise in the way that you've just talked about not compromising? Big question, right?
Yeah, I think there are, in general, and I think it wildly depends on the kind of music you make. If you are making really commercially viable music, so if it is the modern metal, metalcore, tech scene kind of stuff, that I think the ceiling for success with that kind of music is way higher than it is for your more left field or more underground kind of styles of music, or I guess more extreme bands. So I think that I tour manage kind of when I'm not doing Conjurer stuff full time, and I have been out with a lot of small bands in our scene. I've also been out with some bigger bands from different scenes, and seeing the way different bands operate is wildly interesting, because you'll get thrash bands that are just like turning up, rocking, no compromise, don't really give a shit, just here to have fun and do the thing, and people love it. And then you have some metalcore bands that will dig into the nitty-gritty details of the way that their social posts work, and will spend hours talking about the aesthetic and what they want to convey with their content as much as their music. And I think that for new bands, it is really fucking tough. I think consistently, as there is less and less money available to more niche music, it's becoming more and more tough to get out there and make it viable, especially as a career. Like, just as a hobby, you know, it's tough. So the main thing that I would say to every single person that wants to get into music is to, like, be really content to just make the art that you're making with your friends and expect it to go nowhere, and be happy to know, like, okay, I'm going to drive to Stoke on a Wednesday night and play to 3 people.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be happy to do that week in, week out, potentially for years. Because that's the only, only reason we got anywhere with this, because none of us are really social media savvy and don't really have any interest in playing that kind of game. So for us, it was the old school way of just going out, and we played 3 shows a week for 2 years and went from being fine after rehearsing for a year to being pretty good, and then kind of starting proper touring. But there's that way of doing it. We went in with no expectations.
Yeah.
We'd just turn up and just do whatever. And I think the benefit of that as well as a band is that you can turn up and there'd be no proper PA or no monitors or shit backline or whatever it is, and just be like, all right, we're just going to play a show now.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter.
Because then,
Played some ropey shows.
because then the rewards, like coming to Radar Festival, are all there once
That's
you
what I
hit
was
that.
talking about, ropey shows and shit like that.
Yeah, you know who's sitting
But
next to
that-
you, right?
We're like so appreciative whenever we turn up and it's like a good venue with good gear and like, you know, we get food and drinks and stuff. We're still like, oh my God, this is amazing. Even though that is 99% of what we do now. And we're really lucky to be able to do that. But I think that kind of non-compromising thing is the same thing. It's like, if we put out a record that no one likes, sure, it would suck. It's gonna suck. You're a human. You have some ego. But ultimately, I would rather do that than put out something that is created to please someone that isn't ourselves, and then have to like stand by that.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, like put my name to something that I don't think is brilliant. I'd much rather be like, well, I've done everything I could ever possibly want to do in music now. Like everything past us putting out our first album, we were like, cool, this is a bonus.
Yeah.
We wanted to play at the Underworld. We wanted to put out an album. We did that within a couple of years. So now we're just like cruising. This is fun.
Yeah.
I do think, though, if you're in a band that is, if you're not trying to be a old school traditional band that tours loads and writes full albums and releases a full album every 2 to 5 years and just does that, because that's what we do, and we're boring and, you know, which is not cool, and that's fine.
Oh, come now.
But no, in like a very genuine way.
Yeah.
None of Noah's pretty cool, but the rest of us are like, we're just like, whatever. We'll just turn up. We'll wear our band shirts and black jeans. We'll play the songs.
Like
we'll
I said, you're very cool.
whatever. But I do think there is that space for, if bands want to come in and build an aesthetic and build a story to the band, that kind of stuff is far more achievable, I think, for smaller bands. You can come in and have a shit hot Instagram profile and really good content and really good, or kind of create your music in a way that does have that bigger appeal, and you can build a following without having to go and play 500 shows.
And that's a really good point, Catherine. I think it's really interesting as a festival promoter and somebody who books bands and runs venues for a living. There has been, or at least from the outside looking in, there seems to have been a shift in perspective over the last 10 years about, okay, that person's only played 3 shows, but they have such a huge following that it's going to be interesting to get them on a stage. Is that something that plays into not necessarily your booking ethos, but generally speaking, the ethos of promoters?
I think it's you could talk about this for hours, and I will not. But as someone that's run a venue for 18 years, I see the bands that started at the beginning and have done the homework and have honed their craft so that they walk on stage and they do a polished, shambolic show sometimes.
Thank you very much.
That's quite. I was referring to you, yes. They know how to engage with an audience. They know how to work around something that hasn't been
the road dogs,
as expected.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. Say, for example, if a stage bit moves, they'll know how to avoid.
Thanks very much. Yes, exactly.
I was incredibly appreciative. And so you get people like that And then there's been a lot of talk. I'm a member of Music Venues Trust, and one of the things that has been discussed quite extensively in the last few years is, as a generalisation, the TikTok movement, where you've got artists that have suddenly had 4 million followers just suddenly appear.
Yeah.
But they've done 5 gigs, so they don't know, it's that thing of you don't know how to sound check even. You don't know how to rile up is probably the wrong phrase, but how to engage a crowd when you're going on, because if you haven't done the smaller circuits where you learn your craft, it's the same principle as what we've discussed extensively about crew, as in the students that I take on. I've now got 12 years worth of students that work that are not any longer students. They've moved up the music industry, and they all sort of come back for Radar, and my team
I feel like there was someone teaching someone what was going on during our sound check this morning.
Yes, and let's hope that was reflective of the student.
Yeah, well, yeah. But no, it was one of those. I was like, oh man, if when I was getting into music, an opportunity like that would have been great, because you're like, it's not just the theory, it's not just discussing it. You're like in the room with bands that are doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
and
cool.
so part of what we're trying to do is put, crew into the system. All of my venue team, there are 7 or 8 of them at the moment that are all here. And the first one that started, as I said, started working 12 years ago at the venue and is now doing other things, but is here for Radar, as always, thank God. But I think that's a comparable thing to the bands, in that if you were suddenly given the title of running stage 1 front of house, but you haven't done stage 2 front of house and you haven't done the masterclasses in terms of the tech, then how are you going to do it? And it's the same principle for the bands of it's not reading about it or doing it in your bedroom for content. It is turning up and it's not how you do your best show, it's how you do your worst show.
Yeah.
And that is something that I feel I feel my role providing 150, 200 cap shows, some of which might be awful for bands, is a service that I am consistently providing in order to invite some of them back to do a show here. For example, I just watched Seething Akira.
Yeah.
Their first ever gig was at my venue about 12 years ago, maybe.
Great
something
band, though,
like
right?
that.
Great band.
And I just watched them cheekily get the second stage to a point where I felt like I might have to just apologise to the security guards myself. And that's exactly what it should be, because I've seen them from day one, and that's exactly what I knew that they would do.
And that's great, because I associate Conjurer with Road Dogs as well. Those guys who are just like, ploughing through the venues and getting your miles in.
Working on it,
but also quick success from when you started.
Yeah.
But not taking that for granted. Just getting on the road and doing your thing.
My favourite example, well, I guess one thing to that point as well, was that I always tell people, like, you have to eat a load of shit before you can start.
Who are these
not
people
eating
you're
shit.
telling this
Just
to?
any band, like it's one of those, but
bank.
like just go and play like all the worst venues and like all the venues that are, just play anywhere. Like don't be like precious about it, like bands don't have the luxury of being precious anymore. I don't think. But a good example of that whole thing we were talking about was like Sleep Token, who I saw way early when they were playing their like earlier shows, and I thought they were terrible. I was like, this is really... I thought the EP was cool, but I was like, this is just bad live. And I saw them again a couple of years later, and I was like, it's fine, but like all this hype. And then I saw them headline the Heavy Music Awards, and I was like, wow, that is a band that has just been on tour for 3 years solidly. Like they were fucking incredible.
Yeah,
and I'm like, that gives me this hope. Like that's a band that is like living up to the hype.
Yeah.
And like obviously, biggest band in this scene at the minute and are killing it. But like that is because of the work they've put in. But they had that the whole package was there to start with.
Yeah.
The online presence, the music, the intrigue, the story, like all of that stuff. That band would not have worked if they'd come out and been, oh hi, we're just like four little guys from the Midlands, and then toured for 5 years and then decided to be spooky. Like, you know, it's the whole package of the way it's been put together is like so smart and so cool. And now they are that fucking band.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, this is fucking sick.
Yeah.
I'm stoked for them.
I think that HMA headline slot, I judged myself how good it was because I noticed quite early on that the right-hand screen had the logo projected just off centre and the left-hand screen was perfectly central. And the fact that I forgot that by the second song meant that they were doing a really good job because I would not be able to focus on anything else.
That means a lot for you.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I was stood in between Moss and Metal from Tesseract who were arguing over my head about Sleep Token and the screens, and
Jesus.
And I was just sort of like, no, they're really good because my two tall friends are arguing over me. That's off centre, but I'm still watching it.
Yeah.
Well, no greater accolade. Anyway, listen, I could talk to both of you for hours. I can feel this would go on and on, but I have no. Well, I'd love to, but
I got nowhere to be.
Well, that's not
You're
true.
You're probably busy though, right?
Well, I've just got an email from you, so I need to reply.
Okay, all right.
That's not true. That's not true. You have to be on stage or doing something productive, I'm sure, soon enough.
That's fair. What time is it?
Anyway, well, let's wrap this up.
I'm late.
Yeah, exactly. This is what I'm saying. I just want to ask you one last question, right? Of the lineup and cheat sheet, what are your top picks? What are you looking?
Car Bomb, like hands down. They're 2019. Early 2020, like March 2020. We were on tour with Car Bomb.
Wow.
And that tour lasted 4 days.
I was going to say
month.
Right. Wow.
So this will be my first time getting to see them.
Amazing.
Since that. Since kind of like the world ended and my entire life changed. I met my wife around that time. Well, she wasn't my wife then. The woman who is now my wife.
Weird if she was.
Yeah. So I've been through like this wildly massive life change, and the thing to sew it back up is seeing Car Bomb again. So
wow.
I'm here for it. I want
emotional.
To hear some pew pew pews.
That traditional romantic story.
Yeah.
With the soundtrack of Car Bomb.
Yeah, I went into Car Bomb a boy, and I'm coming into Car Bomb today a man.
Well, that's great. Listen, I'm not going to keep you any longer. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It's been great. Thank you.
Lovely.
Thank you both.